There is one question at a traffic stop that is completely different from every other question an officer can ask you. Not, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Not, "Where are you coming from tonight?" Not, "Have you been drinking?" Those questions can get you into legal trouble. But this one question, 3 words, asked the moment the officer reaches your window, this one can get you killed. And I am not saying that for shock value. I am saying it because there is documented, filmed, court-reviewed proof that the wrong answer to "Are you armed?" has ended lives. Legal gun owners. People with valid carry permits. People who thought they were doing the right thing by being honest, by being cooperative, by doing exactly what everyone told them to do. And they did not survive the traffic stop. So before I give you the exact words, the exact protocol, and the exact legal framework that protects you in this moment, I need you to understand what makes this question fundamentally different from everything else. Because this is not just about your rights. This is about going home. I have spent years studying traffic stop cases, body cam footage, and the split-second decisions that separate the encounters that end safely from the ones that do not. Tonight, I am giving you the complete protocol, what to say, what to do, and critically, what never to do, regardless of what state you are in. This is educational content to help you understand your constitutional rights. For advice specific to your situation, always consult a licensed attorney in your state. And if this is your first time on this channel, subscribe right now, because every video here is built around one traffic stop scenario and the exact words that protect you in that moment. In 2016, a man named Philando Castile was pulled over in Minnesota for a broken tail light. He was a licensed gun owner. He had a valid concealed carry permit. He did what most people in that situation believe is the right thing. He told the officer he had a firearm. And then, when he reached to retrieve his identification, the officer shot him 7 times. Philando Castile died in front of his girlfriend and his 4-year-old daughter. He was legal. He was cooperative. He announced the weapon. He followed what most people would call common sense. And none of it protected him. That case is not an outlier. It is the clearest possible illustration of why this question requires a protocol that most people have never been given. When an officer asks, "Are you armed?" that question is a trap from both directions simultaneously. Answer it one way, and you risk a weapons charge. Answer it another way, with a sudden movement or the wrong body language, and you risk something far worse. The reason the trap is so dangerous is not just legal. It is physiological. Officers are trained from day one that every traffic stop has the potential to be fatal. The moment a firearm enters the conversation, from either direction, adrenaline spikes, hands move toward holsters, and every movement you make is filtered through a threat assessment lens that operates faster than conscious thought. That is not an indictment of officers. It is a description of their training. And understanding it is the only way to navigate this encounter safely. So let us talk about the mistakes, because in this scenario, the mistakes are not just legally damaging. They are physically dangerous. The first mistake is announcing a weapon with no context. Just saying, "Yeah, I have a gun." No permit mentioned, no location given, no hands visible, is one of the most dangerous things you can say at a traffic stop. The officer does not hear, "Responsible gun owner." He hears a threat. That single statement, delivered without the protocol that surrounds it, has escalated traffic stops to the highest level of danger in seconds. The second mistake is reaching. This is the one that cost Philando Castile his life. The officer asks about the weapon, and your instinct is to reach for your permit, your wallet, your registration, to prove you are legal, to be helpful, to show you are not a threat. The officer does not see what you are reaching for. The officer sees a reach toward a console, toward a pocket, toward wherever the gun might be. That movement, regardless of your intention, is the exact scenario that triggers the most dangerous response in officer training. Your intentions are completely invisible to the officer. Your movements are all he can evaluate in real time. The third mistake is trying to show the officer where the firearm is by pointing or gesturing toward it. Same problem. All the officer sees is your hand moving in the direction of a weapon. And the fourth mistake, and this one is purely legal, is lying in a duty-to-inform state. There are states in this country where you are legally required to disclose a firearm to an officer the moment you are stopped, before they even ask. If you live in one of those states, and you tell the officer, "No, I am not armed," you have just committed a criminal offense. And when the officer discovers the weapon, which he likely will, the entire encounter changes immediately in the worst possible direction. Here is the legal landscape you need to understand before we get to the protocol. More than 25 states currently provide some form of constitutional carry, meaning you can carry a firearm without a permit. But the disclosure rules vary dramatically by state, and those rules determine what you are legally required to say before the officer even asks. Duty-to-inform states, including states like Ohio, Michigan, and Texas, require you to proactively disclose that you are carrying the moment you are stopped, without waiting for the question. Some states only require disclosure if the officer asks directly, and other states have no disclosure requirement at all. If you are crossing state lines, the rules change at the border. This is not a technicality. It is the difference between a lawful stop and a criminal charge. So the first thing you need to do before you drive anywhere is know which category your state falls into. That research takes 10 minutes and could save your life. On top of the disclosure rules, courts have also given officers significant authority once a weapon enters the encounter. The Supreme Court has held that when an officer has reasonable belief that an individual is armed and dangerous, he can order you out of the vehicle under Pennsylvania v. Mims, conduct a pat-down under Terry v. Ohio, and in some circumstances search the interior of the vehicle for officer safety. Those powers exist regardless of whether your firearm is legal. The presence of a weapon expands what the officer can lawfully do, knowing that going in is part of the protocol. So here is the exact framework, the words and the movements together, because in this scenario they are inseparable. Before the officer even reaches your window, the moment you pull over, you run the physical protocol immediately. You place both hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, clearly visible. If it is dark, you turn on the interior dome light. You do not reach for your license. You do not reach for your registration. You do not move your hands from the steering wheel for any reason until you have verbal permission from the officer to do so. If you are in a duty-to-inform state, you do not wait for the officer to ask. The moment he reaches your window, before any other exchange, you say calmly and clearly, "Officer, I want to let you know I have a valid carry permit and I am currently armed. My firearm is in the center console. My hands are staying right here on the steering wheel. How would you like me to proceed?" Say it slowly. Say it in that exact order. And then do not move. Let me break down why every element of that statement works. I have a valid carry permit. The first thing the officer hears is that this is legal. You are not a criminal. You are a permitted carrier. That single phrase shifts the entire threat assessment before anything else is processed. I am currently armed. No ambiguity. No surprises. The officer knows. Surprises are dangerous. Information is not. My firearm is in the center console. You have told the officer exactly where the weapon is, so there is no uncertainty about where to look or what you might be reaching toward. My hands are staying right here on the steering wheel. You are not going to move. You are reinforcing what the officer can already see and removing any justification for escalation based on your movements. How would you like me to proceed? These are the most important words of the entire statement. You have transferred control of the encounter back to the officer. You have forced him to think, not react. That shift, from officer assessing a threat to officer directing a cooperative interaction, is what makes the entire protocol work. Now, if you are not in a duty-to-inform state and the officer asks directly whether you are armed, you have two legally protected options. You can choose not to disclose. In a non-disclosure state, you have no legal obligation to confirm you have a firearm. In that case, you respond calmly. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to leave? That is your Fourth Amendment invocation. Your refusal to disclose in a state with no disclosure requirement cannot be used as evidence of guilt or as justification for a search. But if you choose to disclose in a non-disclosure state, you use the exact same protocol. Permit first, location second, hands visible third, control transferred fourth. The word structure does not change. What changes is the timing. One critical addition: if the officer asks you to retrieve your license or registration while you are armed, you do not simply reach. You ask for explicit permission, and you announce every movement before you make it. You say, Officer, my license is in my back pocket. I am going to reach back slowly with my right hand to retrieve it. Is that okay? And then you wait for confirmation. And then you move slowly, narrating what you are doing as you do it. Every movement announced before it happens. Every reach explained before your hand moves. This is not paranoia. This is the protocol that keeps you alive. If the officer escalates despite you doing everything correctly, if he draws his weapon, if he orders you to freeze, if the encounter becomes high tension despite your full compliance, you do not move. You do not flinch. You do not reach for anything. You stay absolutely still, and you follow verbal instructions only, one at a time, slowly. The discomfort of being frozen in that position is vastly preferable to what movement can trigger. Your fight in that scenario is not on the roadside. It is in a courtroom, where body cam footage of a calm, compliant driver who followed every step of the protocol becomes the foundation of a civil rights case. And if you are a passenger rather than the driver, the same protocol applies to you. Hands visible. No sudden movements. Do not turn around. Do not reach under a seat. Do not point toward anything. Passengers have triggered full vehicle escalations through movements that had nothing to do with the weapon in question. Your stillness is your protection. Burn this protocol into your memory before you close this video. Before the officer reaches your window, hands at 10 and 2, dome light on, engine off, do not reach for anything. If you are in a duty-to-inform state, Officer, I want to let you know I have a valid carry permit and I am currently armed. My firearm is in the center console. My hands are staying right here on the steering wheel. How would you like me to proceed? If you are in a non-disclosure state and choose not to disclose, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to leave? If you are in a non-disclosure state and choose to disclose, same statement, same order, same stillness. Before any reach for documents, Officer, my license is in my back pocket. I am going to reach back slowly with my right hand to retrieve it. Is that okay? And if anything is found or you are placed under arrest, I want an attorney. 4 words. Sixth Amendment. All interrogation stops. This is educational content only and does not constitute legal advice. Always consult a licensed attorney in your state for your specific situation, and always verify your state's current disclosure requirements before you need them. If this video reached you before your next traffic stop, It did exactly what it was built to do. Subscribe to this channel right now, because this protocol is one piece of a complete framework, and the gaps between these scenarios are where people get hurt. Every video on this channel is built to close a specific gap, one scenario, one set of exact words, one piece of case law at a time, so that when you are sitting in that car with red and blue lights behind you, you already know exactly what to say. Subscribe. Share this with every gun owner you know. Someone watching this right now might be on the road tomorrow with a legally owned firearm and no idea that the right words in the right order are the difference between a traffic stop and a tragedy. Make sure they have this before they need it. Stay calm. Stay still. Stay protected.